What's going on, y'all? It's your man, Stephen Bardo, coming at you with another edition of Bardo's Breakdown. I know what y'all want to talk about today. We're going to get into it. We'll get into it. I'll give my views and opinions, and I want to hear your views and opinions on the Juwan Howard Greg Gard situation that took place over the weekend. First, though, let me get through my stuff like I always do, because I want to update Big Ten fans on what's happening and where everybody's at, where the teams are at. So let's get into it. My Big Ten power rankings for the week. And, oh, man, IG is lit. Hang in there, IG. I got y'all. Big Ten power rankings of the week. I got Purdue at number 1. They have overcome their tired legs, and now they're starting to be fresh. Got 2 big victories. Illinois, number 2. Even though they got beat at Rutgers, everybody loses at the rack, but came back in an impressive fashion at Michigan State and ended up winning. Wisconsin, number 3, impressive victories this week. That big win over Michigan, because Michigan playing for their at-large lives. Ohio State 4, Rutgers 5. Rutgers goes to Purdue and loses, but they are still balling, still in really good shape. Iowa 6. 2 big wins this week. Michigan State 7, Michigan 8, Penn State 9. That might surprise a few people. Indiana 10, Northwestern 11, Maryland 12, Minnesota 13, and Nebraska 14. Big Ten Player of the Week is Keegan Murray out of Iowa. He's having an outstanding season and still a little bit under the radar. People are talking more about Kofi Coburn and Johnny Davis and Jaden Ivey. But this young man right here, Keegan Murray's been getting it done. So he's Player of the Week, Freshman of the Week in the Big Ten, Bryce McGowan's from Nebraska. I believe this is 4 in a row for this young man. I don't think he'll be back at Nebraska next season. If you haven't watched Nebraska play, he is a smooth one. You want to check him out. Let me see. Oh, Team of the Week this week is Penn State. Penn State got 2 big wins over Michigan State and Minnesota. They have a chance to get to 8 or 9 Big Ten victories. And when Michael Shrewsbury came on to start the season, did anyone think that Penn State would have a chance at doing that? Outstanding job. Penn State, the Team of the Week. The team that's struggling this week, the Michigan State Spartans. They are really trying to figure themselves out. They had a nice comeback against Illinois, but couldn't close the deal. And also tough loss at Penn State early in the week. And then let me see. We got the games of the week. Do we have those? Yep. Games of the week. Rutgers at Michigan. I got that one. Big Ten Network on Wednesday. That's going to be crazy. Rutgers playing well. Michigan playing for their at-large lives. Ohio State at Illinois on Thursday on FS1 will be an outstanding game. Ohio State right there in position to sneak in to get a what's up, Matt Lip, my man, Mamella. Ohio State has a chance at a regular season Big Ten piece like Illinois, like Purdue. It's all jumbled at the top. Let me see. Purdue at Michigan State on the 26th. That is on ESPN. Wisconsin at Rutgers is also on. These 3 games are on Saturday. Purdue at Michigan State on ESPN. Yours truly, Wisconsin at Rutgers on Big Ten Network. I'll be calling that one. And then Illinois is at Michigan on CBS. All right. So those are the games of the week. So now got that out of the way. All right. So let's get to the good stuff. It was just announced about 30 minutes before this show started that Juwan Howard was suspended 5 games the rest of the regular season. I haven't heard anything about Greg Gard at Wisconsin. But what we do know right now is that Juwan Howard is suspended for 5 games for the rest of the regular season. And I'll open up the floor because I know there's going to be a lot of comments here, and I'll try to get to everybody's comments. I'm going to open the floor by saying this. There is no place anywhere for hands to be put on anybody. So there's culpability on both sides, right? And here's the thing that hurts me the most is that it's an ugly eyesore for the game. It didn't have to be there. It didn't have to go there. And there's culpability on both sides, right? So if you're Greg Gard and Juwan Howard is upset, I don't think it's a good idea to physically restrain somebody if they don't want to be stopped, right? I know that Greg Gard was trying to get his point across. I'm sure he had a lot to say, but I think there was a better way to handle that, right? So you don't stop somebody. You don't physically stop somebody if they're visibly upset and they want to get away from you. Let them go, because then you can come back to another time and talk about it when tempers have cooled a little bit, right? So that's first. And my man Tony, my executive producer, is running clip right now of the end of the game in the handshake line. So as you'll see, Juwan Howard is trying to walk past Greg Gard, and he gets physically restrained, right? That's the first situation. The second situation is, here's the thing. If you're pressing, if you're Michigan and you're down 15 to 17 points and you're pressing and Wisconsin has their walk-ons in, if you're the head coach of Michigan and you make the decision to press in that later game, then the opposing coach has every right to coach his team up. Greg Gard has every right to call a timeout in that situation. Who wants their walk-on shown up? I don't. These kids bust their ass just as much as the regular players do. And you don't want to see them in the limited time that they get on the court. You don't want to see them shown up. I believe there was a starter on the floor for Michigan at the end of the game pressing. So is it a good decision? I'm not here to talk about good or bad decisions or what a coach should or shouldn't do. But each coach has their right to do what the hell they want to do with their team. So if Juwan Howard wants to press down 17 with 15 seconds left, that's his right. But Greg Gard has the right to call a timeout in that situation. I don't care what anybody thinks. You might think it's Bush League. You might think whatever. It doesn't matter. Greg Gard, as does Juwan Howard, has a right to coach the way they want to coach their teams to the final buzzer, right? So with me, where I take a little bit of exception is that Juwan gets so upset about a coach calling a timeout like that. I don't understand why you get why that would be the thing that would get you up that upset to where you just can't fist bump. Just fist bump in the line, right? Just fist bump and keep it moving. So and then finally, here's my take. I got Curtis Dietz coming up. Here's my take. Who the hell wants to shake hands with somebody when you've been spitting, biting, scratching, kneeing, stepping on, elbowing, talking about their mother, talking about their girlfriend? Who wants to be in a line to shake hands when you've been a gladiator for 2 hours? Here's the deal. Sports is expected to do what society can't. And that's what I don't like. Why do we in sports have to do certain things when the rest of society doesn't have to do it, but yet can sit back and throw darts and say, oh, that's a lack of sportsmanship? Bullshit. That there's no place for it. The NFL doesn't do it. The NBA doesn't do it. I think NHL, I think the National Hockey League does it, but they get to beat the crap out of each other legally. They can get some of that aggression out. They can beat the crap out of each other and go in the penalty box and then come back in and play. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, that handshake line, that's garbage. They need to get rid of it. Because you can sit there in the stands all you want. You can sit there at home all you want. And you can say, oh, there needs to be this in the game. No, it doesn't. Nor the sport does it anymore. Nobody does it. And people will say, well, the NFL players, they'll come and hug each other after the game. That's voluntary. They don't have to go do that. It's a gentleman's agreement or even if there was a woman involved, hopefully there'll be a woman coaching the NFL at some point soon, a head coach. Then it'll be a humanity agreement. That's right now, because there's no women in the deal. That's a gentleman's agreement that the head coaches go and do that. They don't have to, but college basketball is the only sport that does that. They need to get rid of it. There's no place for it. Go get your sportsmanship somewhere else. Go get it in Little League. When a head coach is trying to get his kids into the NCAA tournament and they're fighting like hell. It's late in the season. Tempers are flaring. You don't need a handshake line. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. The sport should not be held to a different level than everyone else in society. That's my point. So let's get to the questions here, because I think I've given enough time. Tony, you want to throw something up that looked good? And I'll jump over here. Old City Chuck, what's good? Mary Gertzmeyer, good to see you. Coach Walker, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Isn't Juwan a repeat offender, says Don Green. Yes, Juwan is a repeat offender. He had a brush up with Mark Turgeon. No hands were exchanged. No, nothing was exchanged, but he did have a situation before Don. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be frank with you guys. I'm going to be honest, because I appreciate you giving your time to this show today. I was really scared for Juwan. I really was. I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I'm really relieved that he only got 5 games, because if he was suspended for the rest of the season or possibly fired, there was justification there. You can't in no way, shape, or form can you put your hands on anybody. So I'm taking my Big Ten Network and Fox Sports analyst hat off, and I'm coming back as a human being and a guy that cares about Juwan Howard. I care about Greg Gard. I'm glad that nobody's job was affected. I'm glad nobody was injured. But Juwan was fortunate to only get 5 games, ladies and gentlemen. Under the circumstances, if Michigan is satisfied with it, fine, good. But he was very fortunate, because I was visibly upset. I talked to my family. I talked to my sister yesterday right after it happened, and she will attest. I was very upset because I was worried for Juwan's job security, because you can't put your hands on people. South Side of Chicago or not, you can't. You can't do it. Just can't do it. Do you think any players will get suspended? Carol Pope-Paquette. Great question, Carol. And I'm going to be pissed if those players are suspended, because they're only reacting to what their head coach did. You can't be on a team, ladies and gentlemen, and your leader goes in like that, and you're 18 to 22, you're going to go in too. It's a natural response. This is my coach. We're on the same team. If my coach goes in, I'm going in. And I know they'll probably get suspended, and that's terrible. But Carol, that's a great, that's the question of the day right there. I know you guys want to talk about it. Is it fair or not? And I'm here for it. I'm here for it all. Let's discuss it all. But Carol, that's a great question. Thank you very much. Ewell 678, good to see you. Steve Schaefer, what's good? CNT for now. What's happening? Drew Lawler, Gailey Tucker, Willis at J82, Matt Lip, what's up, Lip? Mark Macon, Temple's finest in the house. Billy Bendo, Ian Mahoney, what's good, Ian Mahoney? Q's 1987. Tara Lee Miller, Jay Hood, what's good? Zoomer Sports, what's happening? Kenny Williams, what's up? This is what we've been waiting for. Great analysis. Thank you, brother. BB Coach 12, Andrew Gordon, Lorenzo 760. Man, we jumping today. B Houston 34. Eliminate the handshake line. Problem solved. That comes from Kenny Williams, one of the best players in University of Illinois Chicago history. Thank you, Kenny, because you know where I'm going with that. he's fortunate he did lose his job. Ian Mahoney is spot on with that. Juwan needs to be fired. You think Coach Henson would have done anything like that? No way. Derek Wade, that's strong. That's a strong take. And if that's your opinion, I respect you having that take. I'm glad he did not get fired. Would there be justification for it? Yes. Unfortunately, yes. But fortunately, he wasn't. But I respect your opinion. Because again, if any of us went to her job and put hands on somebody, we're probably not working. So I appreciate your point, but I'm glad he's not. How would you compare the Juwan incident to the Woody Hayes incident where he punched a Clemson football player at the 1978 Gator Bowl and was fired from Ohio State? Andrew Moody, Zimmer Sports. Andrew, great question. One is 2021 compared to 1978. Woody Hayes is a legendary figure in football. I don't know what Ohio State, how they were doing at the time. And was it maybe Woody wasn't doing as well as he was when he made his name? And maybe the administration was looking for a way to get rid of him. We don't know the backstory. We don't know any of that. So it's hard to compare apples to oranges. I believe it's apples to oranges because Juwan did not hit an opposing player. I think if he would have hit a Wisconsin player, heaven forbid, there would have been a different outcome. So the fact that he hit Joe Krabenhoff, I believe Joe's the associate head coach or the assistant coach, doesn't lessen the severity of the issue. But I think the optics of a player hitting an opposing player, a coach hitting an opposing player, believe it or not, is much worse in my eyes. Andrew, and I might be wrong. Please tell me, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm wrong. But I think the optics of a head coach hitting an 18 to 22-year-old is different from a head coach hitting an opposing coach. Does that make sense? So I appreciate that, Andrew, bringing that up because that's something that I saw a lot of conversation about around this topic. BB Coach 12 said that's not enough. He went after the Maryland coach, so he's a two-time offender. Okay. Again, I'm here for it, ladies and gentlemen. I respect your opinion. So BB Coach 12, should he have gotten suspended for the rest of the regular season and or Big Ten Conference Tournament and or postseason? Would that suffice? Let me know. Dave Hopper, agree on the handshake line. Much preferred the wave like last year. Yes. Yes, I coached basketball 41 years and did see tense moments in a handshake line. Dave Hopper, thank you for that. I think there's a general consensus around people that have either coached or played in those scenarios that I think Coach Hopper was referring to the COVID situation when the coaches, pointed like, hey, good game, or I'll holler at you later, that type of thing. So I agree. I don't think there's any place for it any longer. We keep making these tweaks and adjustments to the game, but we want to uphold these notions that aren't upheld anywhere else in society. You could go to a youth sporting event right now, and the parents will be on the floor fighting the officials or fighting one of the coaches. We see it all the time. But we don't hold everybody else accountable, right? So imagine at some of these youth leagues where we see this video of these parents going nuts or these kids ganging up on the ref and hitting them. Imagine if they made the youth sports leagues shake hands like they do college basketball. Can you imagine some of the stuff that would happen? And yet we expect these 225 to 250 pound, well conditioned, muscular athletes with emotions just like me and you to sit up there and beat the crap out of each other for 2 hours, knowing what's on the line, and then all of a sudden be able to shut that off and show some sportsmanship. Man, get out of here with that. That's crazy. In her, you know what, is joining me. I can't even say the name. That is the most hilarious name I've seen on Instagram. Hilarious. Cornhusker basketball was good. Kendra Four Walls was happening. Bride 509. Don't agree with Juwan putting his hands on assistant coach. However, head coach had no right to put his hands on Juwan. He should at minimum get a 1-game suspension. Ewell 678. Good point. Now, we don't know what's going to happen to Greg Gard because there's not been an announcement yet. There will probably be something. I'd be very surprised if Greg Gard did not get some sort of disciplinary action. I agree, Ewell. I don't think it's right to physically restrain somebody when they're visibly upset, because I know Greg Gard had he's like, man, he wanted to explain himself, but he did escalate this situation by putting his hands on Coach Howard. And when you can physically see somebody that's upset, like maybe look at him like, oh, wow, okay, and then let him go, and then go back after the game, because you got to go to the post-game press conferences. They'll probably cross each other's paths or something, and then like pull to the side and talk. But to physically restrain Juwan as he's trying to get past him, and maybe Juwan wasn't even going to shake his hand. We've seen that before. You guys remember Jimmy Collins and Bruce Pearl? You all remember that. The only reason they would show UIC versus UW Milwaukee because they knew of the friction between Bruce Pearl and Jimmy Collins. They hated each other. Juwan Howard and Greg Gard don't hate each other. They actually like each other. There's a clip going around on social media that showed their interactions the first 4 times they played. They don't hate each other. They don't hate each other now. But Bruce Pearl and Jimmy Collins hated each other. And the national people that would cover that game, the only thing they wanted to do was see the post-game handshake so that there could be some controversy. Do away with the handshake, we're not even talking about this. Brian K. Hurd, Juwan Howard called a timeout with 50 seconds left in the game, up 19 on Indiana earlier this season. Ooh, Cornhuskers basketball. That's a good call. I remember that. People were not pleased with Juwan in doing that. I've not heard anybody bring that up. That is a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up. So Juwan, in another situation, understands that if he's trying to get a point across, he's trying to coach home a point. He doesn't care what the fans think. He probably didn't even care what Mike Woodson thought. But I don't think Mike Woodson took offense to it. So that's a very good point. Nikki Lang Perkins, what's up, Nikki? Good to see you. Colby HQ, love your takes, got to roll. Thanks, Lipper. We got anybody else, Tony, that you want to throw up? Oh, do you think Juwan's reaction was appropriate over a call timeout by Wisconsin? No doubt Lou would have never done that, and you were fortunate to play for such a gracious coach. I don't know. I don't understand why we would compare Lou Henson to Juwan Howard right now. Lou Henson had times where he probably didn't exhibit the behavior that he would have preferred. God rest his soul. Lou Henson was a gentleman, but he was by no means, ladies and gentlemen, a saint. He had a couple reactions with Bobby Knight that if he were to do it over again, he probably would change his behavior. So I don't think we need to put anybody on the pedestal and compare them to Juwan Howard. I don't think that's appropriate. I don't mind your take on that, but I don't think that's appropriate because 2 different eras, 2 totally different situations. And if you put Lou Henson in a scenario like that, he might have been upset. He might have been visibly upset. We don't know. So I appreciate your point. I don't necessarily agree with you. The fuse was lit when Davidson elbowed Dickerson in the first half. The bombshell was when freshman guard Halpern hit the three with 40 seconds left and started dancing on the Wolverines' grave. The timeout pressure defense was just the cherry on top, said Joe Stovall, tribe member. Thank you, Joe. Joe always comes with a great perspective. If you guys don't know what Joe's referring to, earlier in the game, Hunter Dickinson set a screen, and Brad Davison was, trying to fight through and got his elbow up and got Hunter Dickinson in the ribs in the midsection. Hunter goes down because he's grabbing his stomach, and the officials go to the monitor, check. They say it was a basketball play. Michigan was a little bit upset by that. Brad Davison is one of the guys around the league that people like, you know what? He's the nicest guy in the league. We love Brad Davison. And so, he's a marked man. And so Joe's referring to the emotions throughout that game. One, with Michigan being 14-10 coming into that game, trying to get a huge win on the road. Second, Brad Davison being everybody's favorite player in the conference, gets hits Hunter, and I don't think it was intentional. I just don't. I saw the play. I saw the replay. I don't think it was intentional. But he's the most liked guy in the league. So there you have it. But there was a lot of emotion going on, and things could have been de-escalated, and they weren't. And we had a situation. We've got one side of the disciplinary action. Juwan Howard gets suspended for the rest of the regular season, 5 games, and then he can wipe his hands and we can move on. Thankfully, Juwan will be able to coach Michigan to a CBI championship, says the Paul MBB. Well, I don't know. Stranger things have happened. You don't know. These kids can respond. They might rally. We'll see. Because look, ladies and gentlemen, Michigan's got a monster of a regular season left. Let me pull up their schedule real quick so I can share it with you guys. Tara Lee Miller, as a dad, would you want a son to play for Coach Juwan Howard? Absolutely. Absolutely. Tara Lee Miller, yes. I would have no problem with my son playing for Juwan Howard. I know him personally. I know his family. I know how his players feel about it. I saw Isaiah Livers when the Bulls were playing the Pistons. I talked to him at length. I saw Franz Wagner, who played for Juwan, that absolutely loves him. I know what's the guard that went to the Lakers that Ian Mahoney trained. His name will come back to me in a second. I know him. The players love Juwan Howard. So I wouldn't have a problem sending my son to play for him. Not at all. Let me ask you this, Tara Lee Miller. Would you send your son to play for The Sopranos? Excuse me. I mean, the coach that just let go at Louisville? Would you send your son to play for him? Because, we're taking shots at Juwan Howard, and he's going to do his punishment. He's not going to get paid for the games he's suspended. But Chris Mack is getting his money from Louisville after a Sopranos episode. So I don't know if we should really be talking about, would you want your child to play for Coach Howard? Because there's a whole lot of examples around college basketball that, are questionable at best. Legally, Michigan would have to go through the litigation process. A fireable offense has to be detailed in a contract, says Kenny Williams. Thank you for breaking that down, Kenny. Thank you, Andrew Moody. NHL only does handshake lines after the conclusion of a 7-game Playoff series. Never do in the regular season. And Major League Baseball never does it either. Thank you for that. Are you aware that they are comparing yesterday to the malice at the palace? I wasn't aware of that, Nikki. That's unfortunate because, to my knowledge, one person was struck in the brouhaha. It wasn't a brawl, so to speak. But in our sensitive society, Nikki, people like to blow stuff up. Guard got one game and a $10,000 fine. Thank you, Michael Broom. I guess that just came down that Greg Gard, Wisconsin's head coach, got a 1-game suspension and he was fined $10,000. Juwan, what's up, Ryan Baker? Thank you, brother, for putting this in. We knew that Juwan got suspended 5 games. I didn't know he got a $40,000 fine. So, okay. So Juwan doesn't get fined. He gets fined $40,000, but I'm almost certain he makes more than that per game. So he got a fine, but but thank you, Ryan Baker. Appreciate you, brother. That's my brother from another mother right there. Ike White 3, Terry Campbell, Donovan Lang. What's good, Donovan? Good to see you, brother. Antoine Walker, what's good? Antoine Walker, should there be a handshake line? Antoine Walker's a NCAA champion and NBA champion and a basketball analyst. I'd be curious to see what Antoine Walker thinks about that handshake line. Does or will Coach Howard have to show some remorse? Dave Freeze. Ooh, Dave. I don't know if I want to touch that one. Because I would go into a lot of detail. That's a really good question. Does he have to show remorse? I think we all would like him to, but he may not have to. I don't know. That's a good question. Like I said, I could go a little bit deeper, but I think I'm gonna stay away from that one. Call me soft if you want to, but I got to call a Michigan game on Wednesday, so I'm not. I don't think I want to go. I'm not going to tell you what I really think, but I appreciate what you're saying. If you guys want to be on the inner portion of the tribe, there's 2 ways to do it. You can text me 312-847-2739, or you can go to Bardo's Breakdown group on Facebook, because there I'll give my real take on what I believe around that scenario. I'm going to do a video for my tribe so that I can give them my real take on that, because this forum, there's a lot of people that see this forum because we're on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, IG, and maybe even Twitter. So if you want to hear my real takes, go to Bardo's Breakdown group on Facebook, join the group, and you'll get a chance to hear that. Kenny Williams brings up a good point. Who remembers Bobby Knight? And then he says, is Tom Izzo out of line for grabbing his players by the shirt? I mean, legitimate question. I don't know. Legitimate questions. Fran ended the handshake a while ago. Remember what happened with the Illini and Hawks at Carver last year, says Artiz. Yeah, good point. Good point. And I mean, you know what, guys, I know I want to encourage you, because on this platform, I like to give you something to think about. I want you to think about the themes and the narratives that we have around sports, and then take those same themes and look around the rest of society. Do we apply those same themes the way that we do in college basketball and in sports in general, but in college basketball in particular? Why do we have to hold college basketball up to a higher standard than anybody else? Because the coaches make millions of dollars? Is that why we do it? Is it that the players are getting NIL money now? Is that why we do it? Because it just, I don't think there's any room for it. Right? That's just me. Big Ten was so fun when you played Knight, Katie, Judd Heathcote, Ludu, Dr. Tom Davis. Those were the days, says RTs. Those are fun days, man, but they're fun now. Look at the Big East, Big East. Look at the Big Ten standings right now. All right. We're in late February. We're entering into the last week of February. Okay. And let's take a look, because I'm gonna come back to Breda Meyer Ben. Hold on, Breda Meyer Ben. I got you. I see that comment. Hold on. Purdue is 13-4. The Illini are 12-4. The Badgers are 12-4. Ohio State is 9-5. Rutgers 10-6. Michigan State 10-6. And the Wolverines and the Hawkeyes are 8-7. So if we just take Michigan State, Rutgers, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Purdue, all have a chance to win the Big Ten, a piece or an outright Big Ten championship. In the last week of February, we got 6 teams in contention for a conference title. I don't think I remember when we played that there were ever 6 teams that close to a Big Ten regular season title. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. I don't remember 6 teams coming in to the last week of February having a chance at a regular season title. That's outstanding. I don't know that it gets any more competitive than that. Oh, guard not suspended, just fined. Oh, okay. So Ryan Baker comes back with an update. He says that guard is not going to be suspended. He'll be fined. Okay. Whether you agree with that or not, you know what? I'm okay with it. I just want to move past it, really, because I don't know that everybody will be satisfied in this scenario, right? So, you know what? And if you were to talk to both coaches today, I guarantee you they would tell you that in hindsight, they would do everything they could to avoid what happened yesterday. They could both look back on the situation and see where both of them could have done something different to avoid this scenario. Hold it. Keep that up there, Tony. I want to keep Aaron's question up there, or statement. 99% of handshake lines are fine. It's sad that this happened over a timeout. Players played a hard-fought game. 99% of handshake lines are fine because we're conditioned to try to turn that aggressiveness, that aggression off immediately after a game. If you've never done it, then you know that 99% of handshake lines aren't fine. They're just not reported on because they're 351 Division I teams. There's a lot of stuff that happens in those handshake lines, ladies and gentlemen, that we don't see. There's no place for it. Point to each other. If you got a homeboy, you got a homegirl, go dap them up, hug them up, talk to them, whatever. Don't force these. There needs to be a cool down period. They don't need it. There's no need for it any longer. Get rid of it. Yeah, I mean, my guess is next time Juwan and guard have a post-game handshake, it'll be just fine. Doesn't matter. It's not necessary. There's no need for it. Get rid of it. The NCAA has taken. Here's the part that I don't like. I'm a rant a little bit. Do you know that officials in NCAA basketball games are instructed that when players on the bench get up and cheer and rah-rah and root for their teams, do you know that the officials are instructed to make them sit down? You know that's a rule, right? You guys do realize that, right? That if they're my tribe members know this because they've heard me say this before. There is no sweeter sound in sports than when you're on the road and an opposing team's fans are up on their feet going crazy at old St. John's Arena at Ohio State, or the Jennison Fieldhouse at Michigan State, or Carver Hawkeye at Iowa, or Mackey Arena at Purdue, or Assembly Hall at Indiana. When those thousands of fans are standing up and you hit them with an 8-0, 10-0 run, and it's quiet as a church mouse in there, and the only sound you hear is your comrades on the bench cheering you on like crazy. That is the sweetest sound in sports, and the NCAA has taken that away. So if you're going to be Killmonger and you're going to take the joy out of the game, why don't you take something that has the potential to explode like it did in the Michigan and Wisconsin game? Why don't you take that away? But you've got to uphold this BS notion of sportsmanship. There's no place for it. Get rid of it. There's no place for it. Get rid of the handshake line, and we won't have post-game brawls. We won't have post-game incidences like we did. Plain and simple. Yes, Iowa Illini with legit hate. There's no doubt about that. But it's healthy. Antoine Walker said it was the right punishment. Juwan got 5 games suspension, $40,000 fine. Greg Gard doesn't get suspended, $10,000 fine, right suspension. Thanks for chiming in, Antoine. I appreciate you, brother. If our worst moments were aired live, it would make this look like a line dance. We're only human, born to make mistakes. Say it again, Kenny Williams. Say it again. Howard's players obviously have a lot of respect for him. They were so quick to have his back. I hot LL I Hotel. Listen, all the players in that situation are going to have their coaches back. You're not going to find a team where players are going to respond. They're going to back up when their coach does that. They're not going to do that. You can't play at high-level college basketball if you're not 10 toes in. You got to be 10 fingertips and 10 toes in. You can't play at that level if you're not all in. So it's not just Howard's players have a lot of respect for him. Every coach has their players' respect in that situation. Do you know how badly you'll get ridiculed if you don't jump in to a situation like that? You'll never hear the end of it. So, yeah, they got Juwan's back. And if Greg Gard did the same thing, guess what you saw the Wisconsin players. Juwan slapped Krabbenhoff, and then I saw Vogt come in there. I think I thought Jacoby Neath might have been there. So, look, these guys, that's the nature of the sport. They're gonna have their coaches back. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Izzo compared it to the mouse at the palace. Mr. Smith, 85. Oh, I don't know if I would say that publicly. I gotta see that. I gotta actually hear him say that. I'd be surprised if Izzo said that. I'd really be surprised if Izzo said that. And I'm not going to comment on that because I haven't heard him say that out of his mouth. So I'm not going to comment on that. Why not hold them to higher standards? They are still kids learning to be adults. Nothing wrong with trying to instill positive values into them, says Gary Haynes. Gary, why not hold who to higher standards? They are still kids learning to be adults. Nothing wrong with trying to instill positive values into them. How about the parents instill some positive values into them? If you guys think that one instance of Juwan Howard and Greg Gard losing their control throw away years of character building and accountability that they have for their players, is that what you're insinuating? Come on, guys. We can't be that shallow. The fact that I want to do away with a handshake line, Come on, y'all. That's weak sauce. That's weak sauce. Dory Melman Pizzerio. Hey, Dory. Don't think suspension for the remainder of the rest of the season, rest of the regular season was enough. Dory, I I appreciate your stance. And you know what? I thought that's what was going to happen. I really did. So I respect your opinion. I'm relieved and glad of the disciplinary action handed down, because again, I can take off my analyst hat and I can put on my friend hat. I was concerned for my friend and his coaching future. I really, really was. And so I'm relieved that he only got 5 games. So, but I respect your opinion. Hey, he should not be suspended or fired, coach. Guard instigated the whole situation, says Captain Fletcher, tribe member. Captain, yeah, I mean, there's culpability on both sides, right? If you believe that Guard started it, Greg Guard didn't sit there and punch Juwan. He didn't slap or mean mug Juwan. And my executive producer reminded me of something which is very appropriate. There was no punches thrown. Juwan Howard didn't throw a punch. In Chicago, we call that a mush. You mush somebody's face. That's what he was doing more than anything. It wasn't a punch. His hand was not closed. So there were no punches thrown. If you want to call something, it was a smack or a mush. He mushed him in the face. There wasn't a punch thrown. Now, did Guard slap? Did he put his hand? He put his hands on him. He restrained him, which he shouldn't have done. Thus the fine. But he didn't hit Juwan Howard. Juwan Howard hit Krabenhoff, right? So there's culpability on both sides, but we're not letting Juwan off the hook because it was instigated by Greg Guard. Both parties are responsible. Let us be the adults in this conversation and understand and be adult about it. That you may not have liked the response or whatever. You might not have liked the disciplinary action, but it's handed down. It's done. I'm appreciative of you guys' responses because you all are educating me as well. And we keep it moving. Players as well as coaches represent the school, as well as alumni, benefactors, etc. They have to be held responsible for their actions both on and off the court while in school receiving the benefits from them. Oh, Gary, I don't think anybody's in disagreement on that. I think we're in agreement on that. What you said is spot on. There's no doubt about that. Now, Paul McKeskey is a former NBA great, is a current coach. Here's what Paul McKeskey says. Michigan should not have been pressing. I'm going to say it again. Thank you, Coach Paul McKeskey. Michigan should not have been pressing. And I'm going to kick it real with y'all. I'm in agreement with Coach Paul McKeskey. Maybe Juwan's trying to get a point across. Maybe he's trying to instill habits of playing hard until the buzzer's done. That's his prerogative. But my opinion, I'm in the same boat as Paul McKeskey. I don't know why you're pressing with a starter in the game. Down 17 with 30 seconds left. That might be the statement. That might be the question of the day. Why was Michigan pressing in that scenario? Because that, ladies and gentlemen, seemed to set off the ripple effect, right? Michigan's pressing. They're pressing walk-ons. So Greg Guard calls a timeout so that he can get 10 seconds more to advance the ball, and there's not a violation. Juwan Howard takes offense to the timeout. Greg Guard takes offense to Juwan Howard not wanting to speak, puts his hands on Juwan Howard. They get separated. Juwan hits Krabenhoff, and then the brouhaha starts. Arguably, all this started because Michigan was pressing at that time of the game. That's a legitimate argument, statement. Thank you very much, Paul McKeskey. Coach Paul McKeskey. former NBA great Paul McKeskey. So whether you agree with the comment or not, that's pretty legitimate. If you're pressing, can't be mad about the timeout. Laura Leishman, ILL, college classmate of mine, athletic director. This is an athletic director, ladies and gentlemen. These are people that know what they're talking about, right? That's the second person that said that. If you're pressing, you can't be mad about a timeout. I agree. Every coach has a right to do what they feel is in the best interest of their team. So if you're pressing that late, then you can get upset about a timeout, but really? Greg Gard could have been upset about you pressing. Like with under a minute, you're down 17 and you're pressing me. Greg Gard could have been upset about that. Howard has every right to press, and Gard has every right to call a timeout, says Josh Weger. The rules allow this. They can coach the way they want. Neither coach has any right to tell the other how to coach. Agreed. Absolutely nothing will ever justify Howard's violence. Nothing. Josh, I get it. I get it. I get you. I get what you're saying. I appreciate that. Violence. Okay. All right. Technically, yes. I'll give you that. You don't. There's no. I wouldn't classify it as a brawl, one, as a punch, because it wasn't. But and you're right. In no way, shape, or form am I or anybody that I've heard condone Juwan Howard for putting his hands on another human being. There's no room for that. Period. Oh boy, we got some good comments on here. Dale Terry. Yes, Dale, you made it, brother. You made it. Thanks for jumping in. Eileen Williams says he hit someone ridiculous. Okay. I believe Howard's punishment was fitting, said Jonathan Taylor. Good. Yeah, I got your comments, Carol. Let's see. Let me get through here and see if I got everybody that I can before we get out of here.
Hey, Stephen, while you look at a little bit more comments, I think some pertinent that I think that needs to be said here, and you mentioned it a little bit, that the veil of major college sports, is finally coming off with NIL, with the extra added money that players are getting. I mean, it's only telling in this situation is an example of the veil coming off. We want to believe that this is pure, that this sport is something that we should write stories about and hold up. This is a business. Major college sports is a business. So in a hyper competitive environment of Division I college sports, this is what happens. This is what happens. The handshake lines, the forced sportsmanship.
Yeah.
All the stuff that we know that goes on before NIL, during NIL, with how they're recruiting players, the money, the side money that's being involved, the cover-ups that happen on a lot of these campuses. This is big time, big money business, and it's a hyper competitive environment. So it's gonna spill over. Like this is a natural thing. So all the pearl clutching, about that's what it is. That's what it is. That is the true, raw, unadulterated piece of this that people need to understand. College basketball isn't what it was back in the day.
That's right.
This is big business, and this is when hyper competitive people are in it for big money. This is what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's my executive producer, Tony Gill. You can see how intelligent he is. I can't afford to pay him to be on my podcast every day, but that's spot on. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I might just stop talking after that, because he brought up a great point. Let's get real, ladies and gentlemen. This is a big money enterprise, a lot of pressure, and you got to remember something. I was going to talk about Michigan's remaining schedule. Let me get to that. There's pressure, ladies and gentlemen. These guys make millions of dollars, but he's trying to get his team in the tournament at an at-large situation. So let's look at Michigan's last remaining 5 remaining games. Now that they have to play without Juwan Howard, right? They got Rutgers, arguably one outside of Purdue, maybe the hottest team in the Big Ten. I got that game on Wednesday. They got Rutgers at home. You know who else they got Saturday? Illinois at home. You know who else they got after that? Michigan State. You know who else they got after that? An Iowa team that they just beat. So Iowa is going to be coming in with revenge. And you know what their last game of the season is? Oh, just the 3rd place Ohio State Buckeyes at Ohio State. Michigan has arguably the toughest remaining schedule in the Big Ten. And these guys are fighting to get an at-large bid. And what Tony just elaborated and broke down is spot on. That's pressure busts pipes, ladies and gentlemen. Pressure will make people physically and ill. Pressure will make you do things that you don't normally do. Juwan Howard, I don't think Juwan ever hit a player in the NBA. I believe he played 17 seasons. I don't think he ever hit one player. I don't think he ever hit anybody as an assistant coach with the Miami Heat. He's won championships, ladies and gentlemen. But when you go to that head coaching seat at a Big Ten institution, you can't imagine the pressure that's there. And look, let's get like Tony Gill suggests, let's get a more realistic view of what this is. This is big business. It is pressurized. These players are under pressure. These coaches are under extreme pressure. Okay? So the sportsmanship stuff and all that stuff, we don't expect NFL players that be sport. We don't expect them to show sportsmanship. They're trying to beat each other's brains out. You can die on the football field, literally. They don't expect sportsmanship. So why are we expecting this in college sports? Why? Why are we getting mad when players get NIL money? Why? Let's wake up, ladies and gentlemen. Let's look at this stuff for what it is. Tony Gill, that was spot on, boy. And I'm going to go get a loan so I can bring you in more often because that needed to be said just the way that he broke that down. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. And you know what? That's a good way to wrap up. So if y'all want real talk and you've got college basketball fans that want to have in-depth conversations like this, send them to Bardo's Breakdown. I'd love to have you guys come on. I love all you guys for spending this time. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. You could have spent this last almost hour or so anywhere else. But I appreciate you spending it here with us on Bardo's Breakdown. I'll go ahead and hit me in the comments. I'll check back and I will respond to you guys when I see your comments. Hoop Till It Hurts CEO has a strong point of view in here. Clarence Gaines, former NBA scout, has a okay, hold on. I'm not gonna bring this up because Clarence wants to come on. Clarence be tripping. I'm not even gonna give him the satisfaction. But appreciate you guys. If you want to join the Bardo's Breakdown Inner Circle, text to the tribe 312-847-2739 or go to Bardo's Breakdown group on Facebook and join the Inner Circle. Until next time, y'all. Peace.